Let's get to Meltzer, your boy. He reported at the beginning of January, Jim Ross was rehired to work in the booking department and to produce television. He won't be doing any announcing, however. Apparently Pat Patterson is going to cut down on his workload, and Ross is being brought in to pick up the slack. Pretty much everyone in wrestling was amazed because of the general philosophical differences in regards to what the wrestling product should be between Ross and Patterson. But if you understand wrestling and those individuals, it makes perfect sense. What does that mean?
It means that Dave Meltzer was ill-informed as usual.
Okay.
Jim Ross was brought in to work with the operations end of the business and to work with Ed Cohen in the live events, because at the time we were writing all of the television as well as booking all of the live events and coordinating with Ed Cohen's office, who booked all the buildings and what have you, and also having to deal with the agents on a daily and nightly basis, in addition to doing all of the creative for TV and pay-per-views. JR was brought in to take that load off. So what that meant is Jim was taking the stories that we were doing on television and booking the live events and working with the live events department to make sure that all of that was carried through, and that everything that we had from a creative end was then carried over to the live events. And Jim, being a very detailed individual and very good administratively, to me was the right guy for that job.
Meltzer would also report the new structure at the top is Vince McMahon remaining as booker. However, Pat Patterson has been moved laterally, and he and Bruce Prichard are in charge of writing the television, and Jim Ross will be McMahon's assistant. There have been tons of rumors regarding why Ross is being brought in, with most of the belief that they want a more serious and less slapstick product. And a lot of people are saying more Japan-like booking with winners and losers and more parity at the top among 10 guys rather than building around 4 Superman faces as they did last year. So you were there. Your response?
My response is what I just told you. And that was that Jim was simply taking what we were doing on television and working with the live events in the individual markets and working from that end, and took that off of our plate, so that in addition to doing all of the television, everything we didn't have to deal with the agents on a day-to-day basis. Jim was not free to book whatever he wanted. Jim was taking the storylines and the matches that we had booked on TV and the stories that we had booked on TV, knowing where we were going to pay-per-views, and reflect that in the live events. And when Meltzer would always use the term booker, there was no booker, and Vince always hated that term. If there was any head booker of anything, has been, and always will be Vince. But he has a lot of help around him, and the end result is everything goes through him and is signed off by him. At this time, it was Jim coming in to help us. It was a great opportunity for Jim to get his foot back in the door. And it was something that Jim was good at, from that standpoint of detail oriented and making sure that all the I's were dotted and the T's were crossed with all of the other departments in the company. Television was a more and more daunting job, and trying to do that and do the live event booking every day, it was too much.
Around the same time on company TV, you guys were pushing Vinny Paz and Roberto Duran on pay-per-view. This is a boxing pay-per-view, of course, but it's all over your TV. There's even lengthy Vinny interviews. Talk about how the involvement came to be. How was Vince McMahon involved in promoting boxing? It feels like it's out of left field, but differently.
Well, again, Vince has always toyed with being in the boxing business and looking at different ways to expand. We're a promotion company, and this was another fight, something else to promote, no matter what it was. And it was one of those forays, kind of like Donnie Lalonde and Sugar Ray years before that. And this was another opportunity. Vinny Paz was a good friend of ours, and this was an opportunity to do something else. And they came to us for our expertise in the pay-per-view arena.